Purposeful parenting. My name is Olusegun Mokuolu. We live at a time and in a generation where there are categories of parents who have served their own parent and are currently serving their children. Their children, as at the age their own children are now, many of them were already taking care of their parents. But it has happened now that they have to still be taking care of their own children, whereas they are also still taking care of their parents. The main problem is that it's a generation that failed to raise their children for the times ahead. They were raised by their parents for the times ahead of their own time. And so the issue of go to school, get a good certificate, you get a good job, actually worked for many of them. They are preparing their own children for that kind of society. Unfortunately, we no longer have that kind of society, or that type of a society is fast disappearing. So many of their kids are graduating from school and they are sitting at home. They are still looking up to their dads, they are still looking up to their mom. And that is why we are doing this, to teach about purposeful parenting. That God must lend us wisdom in how we raise our children so that they don't become dependent tomorrow. It starts with us understanding as parents, particularly as Christian parents, that every child belongs to God. We are only keeping these children in trust for God. We are only stewards for Jesus Christ. God is ultimately going to come to ask for them, and hopefully by that time, they will have been well prepared for Him. So He said that, why did I make you two? Why did I make you husband and wife? It's because I'm looking for godly offspring. It's because I understand that you can raise for me a godly offspring. So that must first be our priority and our understanding, that we must raise our kids to be godly. Of what use is raising a great scientist that doesn't know Jesus? Of what use is a great medical doctor that doesn't know Jesus? Of what use is an engineer, lawyer, teacher, banker that have nothing to do with God? That God cannot make use of that life. So let that first of all be clear. Having said that, and if you want to learn more about that, we have a video on this YouTube channel titled Christian Parenting. Once you search for it with my name, or you can write me to request, we'll send the link to you. That will explain how to raise a godly child, the instruction on the scriptures about how to raise a godly child. But we are looking into the whole life of a child, raising wholesome children. You notice that at the early stage of their lives today, one of the first mistakes we make is that we are quick to give our children out. We are quick to send them to creche. We are quick to send them to school, as early as possible. Some as early as 6 months, they're already in creche. Some as early as a year, they're already going to school, carrying bag, every day. So we need to understand the wisdom of what to do. What we need to do at that stage is that you must allow your child to understand family values, to develop family affection. We are raising a generation of children without natural affection. The Bible talks about natural affection, that one of the signs of the perilous times is that we will have children without natural affection. We must allow them to grow with us. As at 1.5 years old, people were asking me why my daughter was not yet in school. And I'm like, what will my daughter do in school at 1.5 years old? Now, even though we are not going to prescribe any specific age for you. We will leave it to your discretion. But we are just providing information so that you can take good decision. One of the things I realized is that I noticed that my daughter at times will sleep until 1 p.m. because she may not sleep early. And then I said that, so if we had woken this child up by 5 a.m. to bathe her, put food in a bag for her, and send her to one school, this is how she will be struggling. So I had to read more about a child sleeping pattern. And I realized that they are actually at a stage when they should be sleeping, when they should do a lot of sleeping. It actually helps them better in life than when you deny them that sleep and you are just rushing them. Some parents are unnecessarily in competition, imaginary competition with other parents. You are conscious that you are conscious that this child, your neighbor's child, your friend's child, they're already ahead. We don't need that as God's children. That's the beauty of being a Christian parent. Your child is not to compete. What your child will do, God had already determined it. Your child is sent into this world with a specific purpose. So there is no competition with anybody. Your child is not in competition with anybody. All that your child needs to do is to achieve his own purpose. So it's always good that we allow them to spend time. Don't put yourself under pressure. My daughter currently she's 2.5 years old. Many of our age mates are already in school. But I said, no, my daughter is not going to be in school. And then one day we took her out to our in-laws' place. And when they saw her spoken English, her understanding, the kind of things she was saying, they were like, there's no way they can put this one in our age grade class, that they have to step it higher. In fact, my mother-in-law was saying that she would definitely have to be the head girl. They noticed, and so nobody actually worried about the fact that she's not in school. They noticed that what is it that she's going to learn in school if she already knows all of these things? Which brings me to the next point. You see, while the child is at home with you, you have one advantage because of technology. What we had done in our case was to strategically get her some video materials that are already prepared, that are available. From there, she learned mathematics, geography, space science, English, biology, Greek, phonetics, all of those things, we got it for her. At times she says some things, even I as the father, I'm like, wow, I don't even know how to pronounce this. Now, so that technology gives you that advantage. There is nothing that she's going to learn in school that she's not going to learn, that she can't learn at home at that stage. There's nothing. Let's not deceive ourselves and just feel that this form of education is alpha and omega, and that life will not be the same if a child doesn't go through all of these processes. Many of you as parents didn't go through all of this, and yet you have turned out to be who you have turned out to be today. So you can take advantage of technology, to raise the child. You can get a tab and put those videos, and before you know it, she begins to operate all of those things. I'm usually amazed if I put my phone in my daughter's hand at 2.5 years old, she's able to watch kids' YouTube and change when she doesn't like what she's watching. I was amazed because I actually didn't teach her that. She can use the tab, on the tab, pick a folder, look at what she wants to watch. If she doesn't like it, she goes to another folder, and then she's watching that. Even as a parent, I learned that as an adult. And yet she has not stepped into any school. Okay? So you must understand that it's important that your child spend time with you, grow with you, develop this family orientation, develop affection, enjoy you as a parent. That's why you are called parent. You are to parent. You see, parenting is a process and is an investment. If you are not ready to parent, there's no point having those children. What many people do today is that as soon as they have those children, they are working to have money so that the child can start going to school. That's all. There's really no training. How then do you expect that they will not graduate and be looking for a job? And the way the world is going, it will become increasingly difficult to get a job. We are in information age. I'm still going to get there. That what is being demanded for a child to get a job now is different from what it used to be in the years past. So you must allow them to grow while you take advantage. Now, when you are buying them toys, buy them creative toys, not just entertaining toys. Buy a keyboard, buy a guitar, buy bricks. What you want to achieve is that you must do everything carefully and thoughtfully. Don't just buy things. Don't just buy things because you have money to buy it. You must think, you must say to yourself that this thing, what will it result to in the life of this child? So when you are buying a toy for a child, buy a toy that is creative, that helps the child to learn how to solve problems, that develops the creativity, the creative thinking of that child. That is what she's going to need tomorrow. That's what he's going to need tomorrow. Many of all the equations and so on we learn in school, what have all of those things become for us today? What have they become for us? Ultimately, it's the problem you can really solve today that matters. So, right from their childhood, help to develop that. Don't just buy things for them. Don't just buy a teddy that you yourself cannot even tell yourself, this is the purpose of this teddy. The child is just playing with monkey. And that's all. What is the essence? You don't really know. You just felt that, well, they buy teddy for children, and then you buy a teddy. And then you see a lady at the age of 28, she still can't go anywhere without a teddy. Something is definitely wrong in that kind of a life. So anything you are buying, make sure that it is purposeful. Then by the time they want to now start school, don't just go to a school that is expensive. There's an assumption that the more expensive a school is, the better it is. It is not true. I've worked in secondary school or high school, and I can tell you that there are a few things that makes a school tough or good. It is the quality of the teachers, the ability of the school to retain good teachers. Let me give you this scenario. There are two schools. One expensive school in millions. Then on the other hand, there is this average school. Now, this average school has an English teacher who has been teaching for 30 years. Now, this school where you pay millions has an English teacher who is just a fresh graduate who has not even taught for 6 months. Now, but that's the person they've recruited. You see, the kids under this other person who is more experienced, who has marked many English scripts, who has written many course content, the child will perform better than this. So, whereas facility could be there for this expensive school and so on, ultimately, it's the teacher that matters. I'm not saying the classroom environment doesn't matter. It's good. So, that means that, one, be prayerful before you select their school. Research the school. Research the kind of school. Don't just hear. Go there yourself. Check. There are schools today, particularly in part of the world where you don't have strong regulation in the educational system. So people are just setting up schools without sporting facilities. So even if a child could have been a great basketball player, a great football player, a great tennis player, the child is already denied because at that age, that child can't find such facility to train with. All the child is doing is just going to classes, listening to lectures, to subject matter, and then go back home. And then they spend the whole evening doing assignment and so on. This is the kind of life they are giving to our parents, to our children rather. And parents are thinking that these kids don't even need to rest. Weekend, they are busy with assignments. Evening, they are busy with assignment. Closing, they have to take extra classes. And you just wonder, what exactly does all of these things translate to? So that's why you must research the school that your child wants to go, and you must prayerfully choose that school. Now, when they get to school, focus on excellence. Don't focus on competition. It is not that your child should come first. That's not what should excite you. Did you know something I noticed about my own journey? I have come to realize that many of the persons that were topping our classes in those days, strangely, this may just be unique to me, strangely, they are not part of those whom we will describe as successful in human terms today. Yet, some of those back class people, struggling people, it's amazing how many of them have turned out to be. In fact, I was saying to someone that the worst or the poorest student academically in my set seemed to be probably one of the richest today. As in, if you arrange us, class A, class B, class C, just arrange us, he's going to come last. But today he's doing fine. Why? Excellence. I'm going to share more on that. Excellence. You know what excellence means? Train your child to excel in the subject, not to come first in the class. If that translates to coming first, that will just be consequence. That is not purpose. It's just a consequence. That's not what you're after. What is most important to you is that, do you understand this? Do you understand this maths? Why did you fail this? You need to understand this. Not that you just feel relaxed that, well, my child tops the class, so I'm not bothered. Even though there could be areas where that child is deficient. But because overall the child tops the class, you are not bothered. No. Don't let that child develop a competitive spirit. Let the child develop an excellent spirit. Somebody that always wants to do well. Somebody that always wants to maximize his or her potential. Then also, focus on wisdom, not knowledge. Knowledge is good. You see, there's something that we did while in school. Some of the subject we did, we just crammed it. And when we get to exam, we were able to write it down. And then we passed. But you see, that was all. Ability to cram and then put it forth does not in any way mean that child is intelligent. It does not in any way mean that child is intelligent. What you want to really achieve is that that child understands what is being taught. You see, there is a reason why they taught us many of those things we learn in science, in social studies, and so on. Civic education, agriculture. It was when I became an adult that I began to connect the dots. That, okay, this was why we were taught these things early in life. When we did biology in secondary school, or what is called high school in US. I can now appreciate the biological knowledge in dealing with some issues in life. That's what you want to achieve. There was a time, let me illustrate it this way. At 2 years plus, my daughter was able to recite state and capital of my country. Now we have 36 states. So to be able to mention the name of the state and the capital, I as the father, I can't even do it. I was amazed. But you see, I was amazed and I appreciate her, but I wasn't impressive. Because the fact is, the state and capitals are there. Whether you are able to recite it or not, ultimately in life, doesn't really matter. If you mention a state, I can tell you the capital. But I'm not able to sit down and just say everything straight away. So, it is not just that ability to recite things that you should focus on and celebrate. It is your child's ability to use knowledge. It is your child's ability to apply knowledge. Your child's ability to be able to solve problems. That is what you should focus on. Is that child able to solve problems? Now, I realize that there's some knowledge that are important that the child knows that may help. In some exams, you just need to know certain things and be able to recall it, or memorize certain things and be able to recall it. If that is what the exam is asking for, of course, it's good that the child is able to do all of that. But you must keep the overall picture. You must keep the overall goal in mind. You must have it in mind that you are raising a functional child. You are raising a child that could operate in the world to come, in the future. Keep that in mind. So don't celebrate too much the things that are really not the things you are looking for in the end. It's good that a child is able to recite state and capital, but ultimately, what does that do? The state and capital, you can always Google it, you can always check it, but I'm not saying it's not good. It's good. It shows the child has greater capacity to develop and to be able to solve problems. So, as the child progresses in higher education, focus on research. That child's ability to be able to do research, not just certification. Okay, certification is good, but we seems to have lost the importance of certification. Certification is a physical means of testifying to the fact that you have a particular knowledge. But at times in some society, education is only about that certificate. But you must understand that it should not just be about certificate. It should be about being able to research, being literate, ability to write, ability to read. You will be shocked at how many people cannot read. And I'm talking of people who had even been to higher institutions. There are times we send information out on social media with details, and then people will still message you. And then you now refer them back to that message. And then they now say, oh, okay, I see it. It's been there all along. People hardly don't read. So you just wonder, what then is the essence of education? If you can't read, if something can be hidden for you in a book, what then is the essence of education? So you must help the child to also have knowledge of little things, of everything rather. Little knowledge of everything. Don't just raise a child in a narrow way. Most male children, they may develop interest in reading about sport and so on. But ensure that they don't grow like that. And for example, buy newspapers. It's always good. One of the things you can do to get your child exposed is newspaper. Buy them newspaper. But help them to read every aspect of the newspaper. To read business, to read about environment, to read about education, politics. and your female daughters also. Because you just discover that, oh, they grow up and like, oh, I'm not interested in all of these things. But you discover in life, that could be a factor that could determine whether you get a job or not, or whether you land an opportunity or not. It prepares their mind. It helps them to be versatile. They may have a focus, but it is important that they are also versatile. So help them to be able to have at least a little knowledge of everything. Do what I call constructive TV viewing. TV is a very powerful tool. You know, in those days, what they do is that go and sleep, don't watch TV. Okay? That was how best they knew what to do. But what they should have done was actually to have helped us to watch TV constructively. One of the things that has helped me in life, in fact, I practically trained myself with TV. Most of the deficiency I had in schooling, I had to make up for them using TV. So help them to watch TV constructively. Let them watch world news, local news, sport news, business news, one meaningful movie, something they also want to watch. Get them exposed to different aspects of life using the TV. It's not just simply saying, no, go and read your book. Just go and read your book. There are times that while watching certain things, it may begin to crystallize certain things in them. Then ensure they acquire skills. While your children are growing up, ensure that they learn one or two skills here and there. Don't let it just be about reading, about books. Let them learn certain things they can do. This world, it's about problem solving. What I may not earn in a day, I will pay to my mechanic in a day. Why? Because he has skill. He can solve my problem. So let them develop skill at early stage in life. And you see, they can begin to make money with their skill at that early stage. So help them to acquire one or two skills as they grow in their schooling. Also, help them to develop their talent. Be observant. Watch their life. A talent is a God-given ability, a natural ability that gives you comparative advantage over others. That's your talent. Now, help your child to develop that talent along with schooling. Let's say, for example, your child, you went for inter-sport and that child came first in 100 meters. You don't just go home and say, my son or my daughter came first today during the 100-meter race. That's a sign that, if possible, get that child a coach. Read about sprint. What are the part of his muscle that he needs to develop? Because he could just be another Usain Bolt tomorrow. So don't just say, no, it's book. See, why book? Ultimately, what do you want to achieve with that book? You want that child to live a meaningful life. That life does not necessarily have to come through books. That's the mistake we are still making. So while you will not stop the schooling, help the child to develop the skill along the way, that talent along the way, whatever talent it is. Expose the child to different things so that his or her talent can be discovered. And as a parent, help them to nurse it at early stage. Help them to nurse it. You see, people become world champions at something they learn to do usually very early in life. It's very difficult to start late and beat somebody who had been doing it since childhood. It's very difficult. Practice makes perfect. When a child starts practicing at the early age, it becomes instinctive. You see, their brain is still developing pathways. The way the brain functions is that, for example, I can play tennis. I can only play to the degree through which the pathways of tennis in my brain have developed. So there's no how much I strive against somebody who is better than me. That person will always be better than me. It's in the brain. But when you get that child to start early enough and to start to be to aim for the peak early enough, that child's body, mental ability, everything develops in that direction. That child becomes difficult to beat. That's why the people who are at that peak, what now matters is their attitude, mindset, body condition, and environment. Because they've both reached a point that the pathways in their brain has greatly developed. So it will now be other factors that will now matter. But for those kind of people, just bring somebody who is just learning how to play. Even on his bad day, he can close his eyes and still defeat that person. So you must help your child to nurse that talent. Also, creative ideas. Let them develop creative ideas. Everything you see today around you, they were once an idea in somebody's mind. What I'm using to do this recording was once an idea in somebody's mind. That person brought it out. And you see, people with creative ideas are mostly billionaires in our world. Check it. They are mostly billionaires. There was no Facebook at a time on the face of the earth. Somebody brought it and that person became a billionaire rather. There was no personal computer. Somebody brought it out from the mind and that person became a billionaire. So you must help them to nurse and nurture their creative ideas. Don't throw it away. Don't trample on it. Usually when idea comes, they don't make much sense. It is as you incubate it and it grows that it begins to make sense. An idea is a seed, and every child can birth something into the world. So when they say something, don't pull them down. Don't behave like, what are they saying? Help that child. You see, it is better when you help them and they make mistake within your jurisdiction. You give them room to make mistake so that they don't make that mistake later on in life when it will be costly. There is a time when certain mistakes are bearable and they are even expected. You create that room for that child to say, okay, do you believe in this idea? All right, let's try it. Let's try it. And you help that child to begin to develop ideas, to nurture ideas. You may never know. One idea is enough to transform a nation, not to talk of a single life. One single idea is enough to transform. So all of these must go along as they go through their schooling. You don't wait until they complete their schooling before you make them entrepreneurs. It is right now while you are training them. You know, many go through school and then learn nothing about entrepreneurship, except maybe now a few courses here and there. But then, once they graduate, they are expecting that they should just get a job. They are now saying, no, go and be an entrepreneur, there is no job. And then they are struggling. They don't even know how to do it. See, business requires investment. There is nobody who will jump into business who won't make mistake and who doesn't need time to succeed. So if you don't allow them to start early enough, by the time they are ready and they are looking for their daily food and you are now telling them to now start being an entrepreneur, it will be too late, or it might be too late. So you start now. They come for holiday, you give them certain amount of money. Say, if you can multiply this money, or if you can increase it by 10%, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to do this. You use reward system for them. So they begin to think. It begin to raise their thinking. They begin to understand how difficult the real world is. Because some of them may just have an idealized thinking about the future, that, I'm just going to do this. And by the time they start doing it early, they now know that, okay, they've got to put all they got in this thing. It's just like when they are going to higher institution and they want to study a course and so on. At times, they want to study courses that they don't even have strength for. In as much as it is good you allow a child to choose whatever that child wants to study, you must also provide guidance in the sense of helping them to see the full consequence of that course. That, okay, this is what you want to study. Okay, good. Now, because you are experienced, you know what it means to be in that profession. You can see the child and say, okay, if you're going to be a doctor, these are the challenges. Here are the challenge, here, this. Now, the child then can then weigh it and say, all right, does the reward for me worth going through this challenge? Or do I like this particular life? Some have studied courses that they've end up not even liking it. Every day they are not happy. Okay, and they chose it themselves. They felt that's what they wanted to study. They didn't really understand. At times you might see a profession from afar and you admire it. But when you go into nitty-gritty of it, you might just discover that kind of a profession is not really your lifestyle. It's not really something that you like. So that's why start them early. Guide them to understand what they are doing. Seek professional guidance if you need. Then teach them financial knowledge. We all grew up. We all got married. What is the major issue we are dealing with every day? Finance. It's unfortunate that such an issue that will occupy the larger part of our lives didn't really get any focus while we are growing up. We mostly nobody will teach you how to spend money. Maybe some may even teach you how to make money. But we mostly don't do that. No financial knowledge. Some things are just habits. If somebody had developed the habit early enough to save, do you know they won't have problems saving later on in life? Teach a child about financial knowledge. Let the child understand the principles of money, both from the scripture and from natural practice. Teach that child early enough to be saving money. Teach the child the culture of investment. In fact, my principle is this: save, invest, and spend. At the same time, teach the child to be merciful. Teach the child to be a giver. You must learn to balance all of this together. If you are going for Christian service and then you just look for money that is not of value and put in the hand of that child, you are telling that child that when it comes to the things of God, you give the least of your money. You give what is of no value to you. That's wrong training. When the child sees poor people, teach them how to give. Also teach them how to save. Teach them how to invest. Discuss principles of money with them. Discuss banking with them. As early as possible, open a bank account for them. As early as possible, open a bank account. Be explaining to them how to run a house. Because this is what they will be doing. And it's unfortunate nobody is teaching that. We learn all forms of equation that we will never need in life. But the real life equation that we need, how to manage money, nobody is teaching us. So you must teach your children about finance. And then, maybe in conclusion, you must help them, you must raise them to be a problem solver than to be chasing money. Many young people are looking for money, but they don't know how to solve a single problem. Solving problem is what brings money. There are 3 ways we make money, but they are all the same, solving problem. Number 1, you sell a product. Number 2, you offer a service. Number 3, you give knowledge. Anybody who is making money, they are making money either of those 3 ways. Either you are selling something, that's offering a product, or you are offering services, or you are being paid for your knowledge. Now, what do all these three do? They solve a problem. Why do people buy product? Because they have a problem that product can solve. I need a phone to communicate, so I buy a phone to solve that communication problem for me. It means the person who made the phone has solved that problem, and so I have to give that person money to solve that problem for me. The same thing, services. If you are offering services of any kind, you are solving problem. It could also be knowledge. There are people that are brought to TV stations to just come and speak for 1 hour, and they are paid millions just to speak. Now, why? It's because knowledge. It's because of knowledge. They have something that others don't have. They are informed. That's why I say raise your child to be well informed. I may not have covered everything, but this is just to wake us up, to give us an idea and a change of mindset, that we train our children to be effective in this information age. That we should not just be so rigid to this old lifestyle of just simply getting money, sending them to school so that they'll get a good grade and get a job. Life is no longer like that. It is what you know now that matters. It is the problem you can solve that will really pave the way for you. So train your child functionally. Don't train your child the way you were trained. You are both living in different society. When some of you were growing up, there was no social media. Now we have social media. So there are other things that will also still come up later on in the future. So as a parent, you must be futuristic. You must think deeply. Don't just bring children into the world. You must know what you are doing. You must be involved in their life. And then lastly, let them know that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. It is of God that showeth mercy. Without the mercy of God, the Bible says that they that watch the house, they watch in vain. They that build the house, they build in vain. So except the Lord builds the house, those who build it, they build in vain. So ultimately, while you are training and doing all of this, help the child to grow in his relationship with God. There are problems that skills, knowledge, information, all of those things we've mentioned will not even solve for the child. It will take the grace of God. It will take the power of God. So help the child to know Jesus. Help the child to grow in his or her relationship with Jesus, to discover his God-given call on her. That way, you'll be raising a wholesome child. I pray God will give you wisdom in Jesus' name. My name once again is Olusegun Mokuolu. I'm going to give you my number in case you want to reach me, or maybe you want to invite me to some of your programs to speak further on this. I'll be very glad to do that. My number is this: +234 818 615 7852. Just check the description on YouTube. For those who are watching on YouTube, just check the description below. You will see my contact details there. I'll be glad if there are questions you want to ask me or things you want us to share or consider. It will be my honor. God bless you, and I pray that God will grant you wisdom to raise successful children for his glory, for this world, and for his eternal kingdom, in the name of Jesus. Amen.